I'm just looking.
We click now.
I'm surprised that there's still an issue with the laptop.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our GBS 1.5 webinar series 1 for year 2022. The topic for our webinar today is Enhancing Data Analytics Technology. Are we ready? This webinar is jointly organized by Invest Penang and GBS Focus Group in conjunction with the 50th years of Penang industrialization. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Hani from Invest Penang. I am the MC and I'll be hosting today's webinar session. This virtual session aims to provide a platform for business leaders, professionals, academia, and consultants related to business analytics specialty, including the Global Business Services, GBS, ICT technology and services, to explore further on the following key highlights. Penang GBS industry moving forward, the introduction of data analytics and the application of analytics in driving decision-making, data analytics adoption in Malaysia and critical factors determining data analytics adoption and its outcome in optimizing businesses, analytics around the people process product platform. Before I introduce the speakers, these are some notes to all participants. This webinar is being recorded and it's scheduled to last for 1 hour and 30 minutes, including Q&A session. Participants will be in listen and view mode only. Should you have any questions, please type your questions in the Q&A box on your Zoom screen. We will answer your questions during the Q&A session. Now, I would like to introduce our distinguished speakers. We have with us Datuk Sri Lee Kah Chun, Special Investment Advisor to the Chief Minister of Penang, and the Organizing Committee Chairperson for the 50th anniversary of Penang industrialization. Datuk Sri Lee is currently a board member of various state government-linked companies and corporations, as well as private companies. Datuk Sri Lee is actively involved in deciding the policy direction of these government-linked corporations for the state of Penang since 2008. Mr. Mark Y. Kidd, partner of Deloitte, specializes in financial services. His experiences include advisory, debt-raising exercises, digital bank applications for several consortiums and accounting standards implementation for banks, audits of digital payment entities, financial institutions, public companies, and government-linked companies. He spearheads the deployment of innovation assets and analytics. Next. Transforms delivery experience, delivers insights and process flow improvements for clients to enable insights-driven decision-making. Professor T.S. Dr. Teo I. Ping, DBA Program Manager for Graduate School of Business, USM, a professional technologies and a certified risk and compliance management professional. Dr. Teo actively engages in corporate training, consultancy projects, and academic publications in her areas of public specialization. She had experience in the industry involving in enterprise systems and enterprise risk management. Ms. Yo Hui-ying, a data analyst in Intel, has started her analytics endeavor in year 2019. Her main expertise is to provide analytics support and inspire analysts to embed analytics in their business solution. Other than that, her focus in Power BI on descriptive analytics. She's also exploring machine learning, artificial intelligence, and big data. Finally, our moderator for the panel session today is Mr. Tai Lee Sam. Financial controller, has 20-year career with Intel Finance with roles spanning across finance enterprise services and operations finance supporting various business groups. Most recent external experience was with Altera as the AP manager. Sam is a member of CPA Australia and graduated from University of Melbourne. To start off this session, I would like to invite Dr. Sri Lee Kah Chun, Special Investment Advisor to the Chief Minister of Penang and the Organizing Committee Chairperson for the 50th anniversary of Penang industrialization, for his sharing on the 50 years of evolution.
Thank you very much, Hani. Good afternoon, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon to participate in this webinar organized by Invest Penang and GBS focus group in conjunction with the 50th anniversary of Penang's industrialization. The theme for this talk series is enhancing data analytics technology. Where are we now? Are we ready to move on, right? So we are delighted to have invited 3 experts from the industries and academia to share with us the current happenings in the global business industry, specifically in the data analytics technology. If you look at it as far as the development of this 50-year transformation, the technological transformation for Penang, you can see that originally we started off with manufacturing, pure manufacturing. Then, of course, we have, because Penang is such a good location for investor to invest into. So after a while, we find that Penang is not only a location of choice for manufacturing, but we also have the talent in order to provide the backroom services in order to support the global operation of the companies that are situated in Penang. That is actually the birth of the global business services. I have 2 slides to share with you about the development of this particular industry. So if you look at it, if you look at this particular slide, you can see that the historical migration of this global business services in Penang. On the left-hand side, you can see that the wave 1, wave 2, they started off with the Jabil, Intel, AMD, Keysight, and all those are manufacturing-based sort of companies, facilities that we have in Penang. But over a period of time, they find that Penang is such a good location for them to do manufacturing, but at the same time, we also have the necessary support in order to support the backroom operation. So as a result, companies like Intel, AMD, Keysight, these companies, they set up their own backroom operation. At first, it started off a single to multiple function activities, and then later to a more holistic end-to-end process lifecycle sort of services, and subsequently to global business services. So that is very much on the manufacturing-based sort of backroom support, the so-called global business services. Some people call it captured services to these manufacturing facilities in Penang. Then if you look at the right-hand side, then of course you have wave 4, you have wave 5. These are the services industry that has moved. These are the GBS that are in the services industry that have moved into Penang. For example, Swarovski doesn't have any manufacturing in Penang, but then again, they have located their backroom operation in Penang because they find that it is a good place for them to be located. Then similarly with Luxoft, Clarivet, all these companies, they don't have a manufacturing facilities in Penang. Then of course, the next wave, that is the wave 5. If you look at it, these are the companies that are doing R&D as well as high-end sort of design in order to support the manufacturing companies that we have in Penang. So you can see that Skychip, Lattice, Opsa, these are all the IC design companies that we have in Penang in order to provide the IC design services that can support the local manufacturing industry. But at the same time, it is also global in the sense that they have customer in the E&E sector throughout the whole world. So for example, they have clients in Taiwan, Japan, China, and also in Europe as well as in the United States. So these are the migration of these global business services over the year. The other slide that I have to share is that as far as GBS, Global Business Services, is concerned, it is also an industry that can provide high income job, very satisfying professional exposure to participants in this particular industry. So as a result, you can see that the state government has actually gone on with reaching out to the public to say that to try to educate and also inspire the new generation of youngster in order to come into this particular industry. So we have done university outreach. So if the companies that we have in Penang, they are interested to participate in attracting more graduates from the universities to their companies, then please work together with us so that we can reach out to the universities in order to inspire the graduates to come and participate in this sun rising industry. The next initiative is about the PISP, the Penang Internship Subsidies Program. Personally, I don't like to use the word subsidies, but effectively, this is an internship program in order to support all the companies in the manufacturing as well as in the GBS sector. The reason is the state government is subsidizing a certain amount of the allowance to be given to the interns, so that these interns from all over the country, to come to Penang in order to participate, to spend time with companies in Penang in order for them to understand, first to have the experience to stay in this beautiful state of Malaysia, and at the same time have the opportunity to understand more about the job opportunities in Penang. So the state is helping the companies to subsidize a portion of the allowance to be given to these interns while they are doing an internship in Penang. And as we move on, we also have another initiative, that is we are partnership with TVET institutions in order to entice more these technical expert in order to come to Penang as well. So we are working with this institution, the TVET institution, in order to train them so that they can be positioned with the factories as well as with the GBS companies in Penang. The last one is about the Penang Future Foundation. This is a scholarship that the state is giving to the potential students who have gone to university, so that after their graduation, they have an opportunity to to work in Penang as well. The Penang Future Foundations work in very easily in terms of terms and conditions. What you need to do is that you study in Malaysia. You don't have to Penang guys. You anywhere in the country, if you have approval to have gone to, or admission to have gone to any of these universities, then you can apply to this Future Foundation. The only requirement that we hope to these students after their completion is that they have to work in Penang. And after all, Penang have plenty of this job opportunity to accommodate them so that they will be able to achieve their aspiration in the field that they have studies. So there are plenty of opportunity for them to look for jobs in Penang as well. So in other words, in short, in a nutshell, Penang is actually a very vibrant place, a very vibrant place for the GBS company to be located. We have the talent as well as the infrastructure and also the businesses in order for you to tap onto. And at the same time, there are plenty of opportunity for the parents as well as for the students. Please look into this particular industry that is expanding very fast, that is providing the necessary opportunity for the youngster in order to participate in a new industry. So that is some of the sharing that I have from the state perspective. Thank you very much, and I wish all of you have a meaningful deliberation in this particular webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sri. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Mark Y. Kidd, partner at Deloitte, to share with us on insights-driven decision-making. Please welcome Y. Kidd.
All right, thank you. All right, hi everybody. Just let me know if you couldn't hear me well. First, I'll just start a very brief introduction about myself. My name is Y. Kidd. I'm actually a partner with Deloitte Audit and Assurance Practice. It's not all about just audit financial numbers and whatnot, right? Because I think consistent with the industry overall, what we're also trying to do is to embed and embrace technology as enablers in the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, right? Amongst all the enablers on all jargons that you actually hear out there, I'm just going to be focusing on data analytics today, right? I'm just going to bring you through a very brief journey, right? Just an overall high-level journey as to what it is, how it's being used, and of course, since I'm from audit, how it's actually changing or the audit field itself, and also providing more quality to the work that we actually do on a day-to-day basis. Now, it will be quite remiss that if I were to not explain what is data analytics, right? Of course, I'm not going to make my whole 15 minutes presentation about what is data analytics. Sorry, the slides went through a little bit too fast. I'm just going to go back a little bit more. Yep, it's a bit laggy at my end, so please do bear with me. Okay, this is not the slide itself. Right, this is it. All right, hopefully it stays on. Okay, somehow it keeps on changing. Okay, perhaps I'll just, the other slide earlier on is just mainly about what is data analytics overall, right? So, it's a jargon that's actually being thrown out there, right? You talk about RPA, you talk about automation, you talk about OCR, you talk about all the technologies outside there, right? But the fact is that, a lot of people will always be thinking like, for business, right? How do we kind of embed this into my business environment? How can I embed this and that, so on and so forth. And for people in academics, right? People who are students, right? Like how it actually impact the work that I do on a day-to-day basis. I think one thing that is more important that we should realize that all these technology are actually enablers. Enablers, what they actually means is more towards that it kind of contributes to your work. It's not meant to be like, replacing your work. To a certain extent, certain work streams will be replaced, but I think how is the technology is being embedded and how is it being invested on ultimately is to actually assist us to create more value, all right, from the work that we do on a day-to-day basis, and also for us to be more efficient. Now, when it comes to data analytics, right, ultimately, in a very brief and a very gist, right, it's taking raw data that you have, you see on a day-to-day basis, and turning it into valuable information. How do we do that? By dissecting it, right? Now, I'm going to go through from a very simple understanding of what is data analytics, and for you to focus on this technology reference architecture. Just a very simple one, right? I mean, the gist of it is the same across all, but the framework is almost the same, right? How it starts on is on to the left. So as you can see from the left itself, you have your data sources, right? So what are your data sources? So let's just say look at personal information, right? My name, my date of birth, my address, so on and so forth, right? Then that is what we call a structured data. A structured data is something that we can just copy and paste, call it, and we know exactly what it means. Like for example, do you like nasi lemak? Yes, no. So that is a structured data, right? So what about semi-structured data? So let's just say, again, go back to the question about do I like nasi lemak, right? The thing is like, I'm a food blogger, right? So I'm gonna write like 10 paragraphs. So it's more towards that, but what is meaningful in from the data itself, whether I like or do not like, right? For example, let's just say if that's what I want to get to, right? So there is for example, text, logs, so on and so forth, that for which it is in a written format, right? It is in a digital format, and it's something which I would need to read to be able to conclude in one word, right? Yes or no, right? So it's a bit more semi-structured data, for example, right? And then lastly is on unstructured data. So unstructured data, maybe you can look at it as like, if I today I would have a phone call with my bank, let's just say Maybank, CIMB, RHB, or whatsoever, right? Then they are supposed to sense whether am I satisfied with the customer service. Now, how we do that is basically normally at the end of the call, they send you an email or whatnot, all right, or they'll ask you to respond in a survey 1 to 5, right, to explain to you to tell them in a structured manner whether you're satisfied, partially satisfied, so on and so forth. But what if, like, let's just say you don't do that, right? Basically, based on a phone call, right? You need to be able to determine whether the person likes it or does not like it. So that is where we call unstructured data. Now, all these data sources, what do we do? And these are the raw data, right? So you have structured, semi-unstructured, and unstructured. And ultimately, you're just going to process all this data into batches, or you need to manipulate the data into a form that anyone can understand. Again, using the nasi lemak example for a very brief example, right? Then there is the integration, the manipulation, and then you need to you have thousands of sources, then you have external sources, for example, and you integrate them. Now, thirdly, is more towards a data storage, right? And right, again, the jargons out there, data lake, data warehouse, so on and so forth, right? And what are the differences? I'm not going to go through that in detail in current discussion overall, but all this will need to be manipulated and be kept somewhere. The reason why it's to be kept somewhere so that the moment to like today, if I want to report on my financials, my company, or let's just say I want to answer a particular question, I can draw on those data immediately, right? And that is where you always hear about the cloud technology, right? And then the consumption channels. Now, the consumption channels, for example, same thing, right? Let's just say I like to eat nasi lemak, let's just say 50 years old. So what am I going to do with the data, right? Is there any use to the particular data, right? Is it going to be making any impact to anyone's lives or to organization, to a student, anyone, right? I'm going to go through with you case studies later on. So there's consumptions, there's the analytic capabilities, then ultimately the business users. The business users are the one that is the most abundant in the community right now. Basically, if you're a lawyer, if you're an engineer, you study in a very traditional role of being accountant, for example, finance and whatnot, you are the business user. You use this on a day-to-day basis for you, in order for you to make decisions, in order for you to run your jobs on a day-to-day basis. So all of this to the left is all a tech stack, right? Then you have analytic capabilities and consumptions as to what you want to do with it and how you can run with it. Of course, I'm not going to go through like machine learning, so on and so forth, right? Because that is a bit more complex. Now that we kind of have it, it just more gives you a flavor, right? So let's just say when it comes to implementation, right? It can be a very work stream basis. It can be organizational wide. It can be a global organization. But most of all, in a framework, it looks like this. Find the data, decipher the data, collate the data, store the data, and then how you want to use the data and feed it to your frontliners. Frontliners in this case can be the business users, humans, systems, apps, cognitive agents, be whatever, let's just say, discipline that you might be in. Okay, so let me just move forward a little bit. The application areas. All right, I'm just gonna go bring you through a little bit boring one because I'm an accountant, right? And I'm also an auditor, right? The most technically technical part of the profession, of course, other than academics, right? So how do we use it to actually transform the way that we work? So these are the four main areas just for discussion purposes. So you have risk assessment, test of controls, substantive procedures, and journal entries testing. Now, a lot of this will not make any sense to those that are not auditors, but let me try to demonstrate a little bit, right? So, okay, performance or controls. This is something which is common, be it you are your professional services firm or you are in the industry itself. When I mention industry, you're in a commercial firm as well. In the day-to-day running of a particular business, right? For example, it's you need to have controls everywhere to make sure that every single work stream or every single process or a cycle is working the way it is supposed to be to avoid errors, to detect risk, and to also avoid the risk. Now, as part of an audit itself, right? We are audit as normally in a snapshot. Let's just go a statutory audit. It's a snapshot, right? So basically look at one entire year itself. So how do we make sure that the controls are operating effectively within an entire year itself? So with the use of analytics, we use of data itself, especially we use ERP systems, we are able to extract 100% of every single occurrence of a particular work stream and then actually dissect it, right, to understand whether if there's any breakdown in the controls. That is mainly for the automated controls or controls which are residing within a particular ERP system, not manual controls. Like somebody needs to sign off on a particular working paper, somebody need to sign off on a payment voucher, because as we mentioned earlier on, right, now the data can be formatted in a good format, in digital format, and you have also unstructured data. Unstructured data or semi-structured, it can be in a form of somebody signing off on a particular payment vouchers. Now, right, it's not just as technology advances, we have OCR tech, right? We are able to scan and detect and read all these kind of documents. So all this enablement in the industry itself has resulted in the way we change and we do our audit, and it resulted that we need to be able to adapt to the industry, right? And especially in Penang, you have all the high-tech industries that are all residing inside there. So yes, just not gonna go through in detail, but just maybe give a flavor as to how is it being applied, right? Now, the next one is on substantive analytical procedures, right? Okay, again, now when it comes to, let's just say, if you're a finance role, even though you're not in a finance role, everybody needs to learn about finance. If you're a business owner, you're not a business owner, or you're an influencer and whatnot, right? You still rely on the numbers because the numbers tell you the whole story. First of all, most important thing in any business or in any performance or eminence and whatnot is your outreach, is your performance. Now, how do you measure performance? A performance that cannot be measured is a bit hard to evaluate. So in here, how does data analytics play a role? Again, I'm just going to use a very simple one, which are based on numbers, right? So basically, here is a visualization, a chart, as you may call it, right, of comparison of revenue figures by month by client. So ultimately, you are able, let's just say if you are a business owner, how this is being done is that you need to know how much you earn by a month, every month, right? You keep track against your budget. And secondly, you need to be able, from the operations perspective or the sales perspective, right? Let's just say you have 1,000 storefronts or 100 storefronts, right? You have thousands of customers. So the thing is that can you squeeze value out of each of your customers? What do you think your customers would like? And I'm sure all of us would have read in the past decade, right? A decade, that's how long it has been, that Facebook uses our information or what we read, how long we spend to do targeted ads. And this kind of information is valuable because why? Because it enables a company to find out sources of revenue to increase your revenue overall, right? And this is one of the examples to track your revenue month to month, year to year, by customers, so on and so forth, right? And in audit itself, we need to develop an expectations. We audit your revenue, or for example, a company's revenue itself. And instead of like doing sample by sample basis of vouching, we actually review 100% because again, it's like our clients' technology, our clients' adoption of tech that has enabled us to do so, and we are just playing in a way catching up. Again, this is same thing again. This is how our testing is, right? We develop an expectation of the revenue compared against the client's revenue to determine it's not out of whack, right? To ensure that the revenue that you actually earn is actually correct. Now, just gonna go through another one, automation, right? This is another, this might not be 100% related to data analytics, but it all comes together, right? Data analytics cannot exist by itself. OCR cannot exist by itself. A lot of things cannot exist by itself because it would not provide value. It's a combination of a lot of text, right, to create something which is valuable or something that's insightful. for the users itself. Now, on automation itself, can you imagine, first of all, like we mentioned about the data itself, right? The data itself would have to be collated in a certain manner. Again, if I'm going to invest in tech, I'm not going to invest in 1,000 people to read survey forms, which are all manual, and then type it inside type it inside Excel itself. A lot of things can be automated, right? And then here I'm trying to demonstrate that automation is one of the tools that we actually use in our day-to-day processes of our audit itself. So, for example, here, it's common that an organization may have multiple systems, right? Be it front, back office, or whatever not, right? But they all talk to each other. The problem here is that they are all kept in separate databases. And as part of audit itself, you need to combine all of this, especially in the absence of a data lake or a data warehouse. Now, to do that, you can do it manually, look at Excel, combine, so on and so forth, whatever functions you might have in Excel or SQL and whatnot. And in here, we are trying to automate the process so that year in, year out, we are able to not spend 1 month's time for the purpose of just collating data, right? So this is what we kind of trying to say in here in this particular slide itself. I do take cognizance that I have a time frame that I need to complete my presentation. So if you have any questions, do hold on to it, and perhaps you can let me know in a bit during the panel session. Now, okay, now to the more interesting part, right? I was just talking about audit overall. Now we talk about how is it being applied in organizations in the real world. Okay, a lot of words. Again, some graphs. I'm just gonna explain what it is. Now, so let's just say you are a manufacturer or your F&B business, or let's just say you are a retailer, right? So let's just say if you're a 7-Eleven, KK Mart or Family Mart, you have products in your stores. So ultimately, you would have distribution centers. Depending on what kind of business you have distribution centers. So first of all, the question is always like, let's just say you are the one who want to expand your business, want to start a business. Where is your distribution center? That's number one, right? So where should you place it? So, I mean, without analytics itself, it would be like, I should place it in the most strategic. That's the qualitative, right? But how do you determine what is the most strategic locations? First of all, you can rely on your business experience, you can rely on data, you can rely on your salespeople, your advisors, and whatnot. Now, how certain companies make their decision in this particular case, which we actually assisted, is they wanted to have another distribution center. The question here is, where should it be? Now, how do we determine where should that distribution center be? Now, what we did, we actually created a mapping, right? A mapping of where the customers are in a city itself. And we look at the distribution center that's already existing. And from there, we actually multiply it, combine it with the data relating to how long does it take to travel from point A to point B. Because ultimately, if you want to have very good service, you need to be able to deliver your goods in time, right? As soon as possible to your customers overall. And based on, I wouldn't say it's much more complex than it is, but how we did, we populated the map with the customer data, currently the locations. We calculated the routes and also where this, how long does it take for the existing distribution centers to actually service these customers. This amongst with a lot of data else, I wouldn't want to name them. We kind of created a hot map. What is a hot map, right? Okay, a lot of conversations wouldn't be possible today without COVID. So when it comes to COVID itself, right, then you have red zones, yellow zones, and whatnot. So what does it mean? For COVID, you will understand that in this particular zone, there is a lot of concentration of people with or a high infectivity rate in COVID itself. So imagine that, but turn it around into hot maps of your customers, where you are servicing and where you are trying to reach out to. So we created a hot map, and then from there itself, again, then we can drill down deeper to understand where would be the best place to place your distribution center. Because again, to make a decision, it's not so simple, right? Not just best place. What if the cost is too high? What if there's no location? What if there's so on and so forth? I mean, then we actually added on to find the mean that we presented to the board. You know what? Based on all these considerations, based on analytics itself, this is the best place, or these are the list of best places that you should. And we can explain exactly why, right? It's all data driven. Do stop me, sorry, organizers, if I'm going a bit too slow. Okay, now similar thing, right? So let's just say look at distribution center, and then we just take it a step further. Let's look at DHL, J&T, so on and so forth, right? Because these companies, what they do is like they are in the sorry,
But you need to wrap up now.
I can't hear you, honey.
So sorry to interrupt, YK.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're very soft. Maybe you want to type it in the chat box for the
Can you hear me
panelists.
now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so sorry, but you need to wrap up now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay,
So
thank you.
I'm a bit too long-winded, so please feel free. I'll answer your questions later on.
Okay, thank you so much, YK.
All right, thank you.
Next, I would like to invite Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Teo I Ping, DBA Program Manager for Graduate School of Business USM, to share on antecedents and outcomes of Big Data Analytics adoption, key research findings. Please welcome Dr. Teo.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hani, for your introduction. And hi, guys. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me clearly? Okay, my name is Teo I Ping. I'm currently attached to the Graduate School of Business, University Science Malaysia, Penang. So thank you very much for allowing me to share some key research findings in investigating the antecedents and outcomes of big data analytics, or we shall call it BDA after this, BDA adoption among manufacturing firms in Malaysia. This is the outline of my talk today, whereby I'll start with introduction and going through some key research discoveries, and I shall end with some key takeaways from the research that we have been conducting related to BDA in Malaysia. So as an introduction, indeed, we have been hearing much about big data and big data analytics across industries today. And you guys have also observed that big data has been transforming and powering decision making everywhere. In fact, many organizations view big data analytics as a strategic tool towards driving towards better performance, in particular, driving them to gain good decision making and with that, better business performance. So if I may share some statistics obtained from the Department of Statistics Malaysia in the Malaysian AI Blueprint Report 2020 indicated that Malaysia is actually at level 3, which is systematic in our BDA maturity. So big data maturity level in Malaysia is systematic, meaning that overall, Malaysian organizations are actively applying artificial intelligence, specifically machine learning, in a variety of industry-specific projects with the goal of forecasting the future in answering what will happen types of questions. So this is obtained from the Department of Statistics Malaysia. So in case you are wondering, there are actually 5 levels of maturity, started with the first level, infancy, second, committed, third, systematic, and the next one will be to progress towards strategic level, and finally, it's a visionary level. So we have seen several literature throughout our academic studies indicated the importance of BDA today. While we have also observed industry reports on how BDA could be meaningful to drive business performance, such as the one that was shared by YK just now, some use case and some case studies. So in fact, going through the literature, some previous studies indicate that 89% of firms believe that they might lose their market share if they do not adopt BDA. And we have evidences showing that manufacturers were able to increase earnings by 55% by applying changes that was indicated by advanced analytics and data modeling. Nevertheless, the current stage of BDA adoption among the industry players in Malaysia, and today I'm sharing from the perspective of manufacturers, is worth investigating. Specifically, our key or main research questions attempt to answer the following questions that you can see here. First of all, since Malaysia is at level 3 of the big data maturity stage, which is somewhere in the middle, so what are the significant antecedents, or in other words, factors that influence the adoption of BDA, big data analytics, among manufacturers in Malaysia, and also industry players in several other projects across services, industries, and whatnot? And the second key question is, what are the significant outcomes or the consequences of such big data analytics adoption? And as in any academic-based research, we have an underpinning theory that guides our research. So grounded on resource-based view theory, we argue that BDA is a valuable resource, which can be used as the ability to integrate, build, and reconfigure both internal and external competencies in order to generate strategic agility, which companies or firms can address rapidly changing environments and thereby contributing to organizational performance. So in establishing our research framework, we have actually synthesized related academic literature. Specifically, we look at literature that suggested looking at factors influencing technology adoption. So we have adapted related ones, which point us to looking at a more holistic view of investigating three key perspectives. That is from the technology perspective, organization perspective, and environment perspective, seeing how the factors under these three perspectives are going to be significantly influence big data analytics adoption. Furthermore, we have also reviewed literature that look at the outcomes of technology adoption and uncovered the important role of strategic agility and consequently how it impacts on a company's performance. In fact, big data analytics adoption, just like any previous advanced technology adoption, can affect organizational performance through the mediating role of other capability resources. And in this case, we specifically look at the role of strategic agility as it linked to sustainable business performance. And firms which have successfully implemented BDA, as observed from the advanced countries, can improve their product development by 70%, market expansion by 72%, customer satisfaction by 79%, and economic performance in terms of sales and revenues by 76%. So in having that in our mind, we now proceed to collect data to uncover some empirical evidences in the case of Malaysia. So in our research projects, we have collected data using questionnaire survey and analyzed the research hypothesis with structural equation modeling or SEM-based software such as Smart PLS. So a snapshot that I can categorize our research findings as in accordance to the hypothesis that we have tested. So our research findings revealed the following. As you can see on the left-hand side, factors in the technology, organization, and environment perspectives play a vital role influencing BDA adoption among the Malaysian manufacturers. Particularly, the first three boxes that you can see, relative advantage, complexity, and compatibility, are those under technology context. And if you move on to the next sets of three other factors, technological resource competencies, organizational size, and absorptive capability or capacity, all these three falls under the organization context. And last but not least, the last three factors, the set is coming under the environmental context, and we look at how competitive pressure, government support, and the role of our business partners matter in influencing whether manufacturers adopt BDA or not. So related to that, as you can see, moving on towards the right-hand side, it shows that these 9 factors falling under technology, organization, and environmental perspective, significantly influence the big data analytics adoptions among the industry players. And what about the consequences from that? So before we move on to that, it is then proven from our research that we have launched a survey recently in the manufacturing sector that Malaysian manufacturing companies recognize the adoption of BDA enables them to attain strategic agility, because we found that it's a very strong, significant impact from BDA adoption that leads to strategic agility. And consequently, there is also a very strong linkage or impact from strategic agility, attaining strategic agility that consequently drive companies or manufacturers to achieve organizational performance. So in other words, when organizations adopt BDA, their strategic agility increased, and the increase in strategic agility further enhance its organizational performance. Further analysis that we have conducted looking at the indirect effect, we discovered that strategic agility significantly mediates BDA adoption and organizational performance. In many cases, BDA adoption per se, or BDA adoption itself, doesn't directly translate into observable organizational performance, in particular those financial indicators, because it has to go through the attainment of strategic agility. In other words, those analytical results empower managers to make good decisions or informed decisions with the insights that have been generated from those analytics. And with this strategic agility that they have attained, it gives them the flexibility and the adaptability to be able to quickly adopt or adapt itself to the changes in the market environment. And through that, with that, then these companies who have adopted BDA will then see the consequences and the outcomes towards attaining organizational performance. So having said that, strategic agility drives an organization to quickly address the changes in the market environment, at its turn routine assets into something useful that gives organization an extra advantage over their competitors. In a volatile market climate, the importance of strategic agility increases as companies are able to predict changes rather than just respond to them those days. And it allows company to make fast strategic decisions and execute them quickly in order to resolve these complex changes. So a very quick recap is that improved business strategic agility provides an opportunity for organizations, be it from service sector or be it from manufacturing, to achieve high returns on investment, high profitability, substantial market share growth, and as well as sales growth. So as a key takeaway, if I can conclude our key findings here, carry out from this various research, is that the adoption of big data analytics, it's tested and it's significantly affected by the following antecedents or the following factors. So as I mentioned, under the technological context, relative advantage, complexity, and compatibility are the key predictors. And under organizational context, the role of technological resource competencies, organizational size, and absorptive capacity play important role in influencing whether a manufacturer, to what extent they are willing to adopt BDA. And last but not least, environmental factors such as competitive pressure in the industry, government support, and also their business partners play significant role as well that influence companies to adopt BDA. And if in case you're wondering, among the above 9 significant factors, which one is the most influential, which one is the most important in the context of Malaysian manufacturers, our research indicates that, first of all, relative advantage plays the most significant role. So what do we mean by relative advantage? It is the extent to which the use of innovation is perceived to be better then the use of its superseded practice. That means BDA is viewed as one of the latest technology or innovation in line with IRA 4.0, and this is perceived to be better than previously. Probably they might be just using an Excel to analyze, to work on some analysis that guide their decision making. So number two, we uncovered that this is actually followed by the role of absorptive capacity. So what is this absorptive capacity? It refers to capability within the company that enables the company to obtain and effectively harness the internal and external knowledge so that an opportunity for an organization to gain profits can be created. And last but not least, number three, so the first three ranking of factors of importance, the third one is technology resource competencies. So technology resource competencies, we are looking at an organization's technology resources, whether is it or are they adequate enough for the task of adopting big data analytics. So while all the 9 are significant factors, these 3 appears to be the top 3 of concern that are proven to significantly influence BDA adoption among the manufacturers. So the outcomes of BDA adoption are reflected in its positive impact, first on strategic agility, and then consequently on organizational performance. As mentioned before, further analysis demonstrated the mediating role of strategic agility. In other words, sometimes we do not see the direct impact of BDA adoption on performance per se, but it goes through strategic agility. It goes through driving the organizations to attain strategic agility, and with that, with this capability, it allows the organization to ultimately achieve the intended performance. So in conclusion, a well-structured framework to drive Penang and Malaysia towards a leading regional BDA player calls for the seamless interplay of various facets. So cross-sector collaboration between the public and the private is crucial, and key enablers such as continuous learning mindset, people and talent, and more importantly, in the case of big data, is the data governance and policy. Are we really ready and enforcing and practicing that? And of course, technological platform and industry-driven open innovation. So with that, this is the short sharing from me. It's an honor for me to share with all of you on this topic today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post it later at the Q&A box. And with that, I wish you a great day ahead, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Teo, for the sharing. A gentle reminder, if you would like to ask questions during the webinar session, please type your questions in the Q&A box on your Zoom screen. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Thank you. Now, please welcome Ms. Yo Hui Ying, data analyst, to share about the 3 Ps of analytics, the Intel story. Over to you, Hui Ying.
Thanks, Hani. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hui Ying. I have been 7 years in Intel. Back in 2019, I made a decision that would change my career direction. I committed to a 3-month assignment that is newly started during that time at a business transformation team. So it was a tough decision made, as I don't have data science background and I have to commit to more than 100% of my resource commitment. But overall, I'm glad that I made that decision, and that's why I'm here today. And I'm super proud to be in the team, as I got to design my own framework, and that's how I help the finance community as well. So that's a little story about myself. Here's the Intel story, the 3 Ps of analytics. So at Intel, the pace of change is accelerating. We want to execute flawlessly, to keep the reliability on our job one, execute day in, day out without fail. As when we become more mature, that's where the industry will focus more on transformation. That's where the simplification occurs, where simplification at Intel stands for ESSA. ESSA, E-S-S-A, to eliminate, to simplify, to standardize, and to automate. That's where we make the process to become optimized and to make it automated. It is very important as this is where we will reduce the manual human touch and to improve the data quality. Other than this, it is also equally important to keep on creating value to the organization. So our transformation program are geared towards bringing SSC to the next level by allowing to provide the tools and capabilities to enable the quick changes, quick reactions in the changing environment. So we have tons and tons of data in GBS and also shared service center. But whether are we already harness the potential insights possibility yet? Actually, no. We have people's data, we have GL, we have assets, everything, right? So that is our next frontier where we should generate insights to enable to enhance the business impact. Next, here's the 3Ps and how. 3P stand for people, process, and platform. People at here, it is about the culture management and skill development. So we want to create a culture and also to create awareness within the people to make them understand, to let them have the awareness of what is analytics and why is it analytics is important, how analytics actually bring value to the organization. Okay, it is also a continuous improvement that we want to embed a growth mindset within the people so we could enable the future of finance. I also want to acknowledge that the best model to drive the analytics effort is to have the combination of people where they are the subject matter expert on technology excellence, and also they are the people who are close to business. So this is the people that they will invest their time in upskilling the analytics skill set. So we recognize this group of people as citizen developer at Intel, which is also part of the cohort member who will be the pioneer that leading the analytic journeys. So they will be the pools that get prioritized to learn on the analytic skill set, and they will be the one that will be sharing the knowledge and everything to the community. Talking about process is a governance on to enable to ensure that the success of analytics, this is where we will have the operating model and make sure everything are on track. So we have a core team in Intel, which is called Business Transformation Unit. It is part of Shared Service Center. This team of people are responsible to provide guidance, to provide expertise to the people, whether they are the cohort members or to the community. So it is important to have this governance so we could make sure everything are on track. We do have the certification program that we created for people and also the framework, everything to ensure it is on track as well. Okay, I spend quite a lot of my time in coaching people and also providing the certification guidance and to help people to get their certification program to certify. Yeah, but actually what excites me a lot is when I really get my hands dirty to drill into the data and to find the insights. You will get to see the data itself will tell you a story. So everything is about data. Okay, when you do troubleshoot everything, you kind to see the pattern of data and what it try to tell you. Okay, so platform, it is very important. Like in the most of the cases, right? Analyst A and Analyst B, they might be pulling a same data set from a different system. So what they will end up is they will end up doing reconciliation. And that's where non-value added, and they are wasting time to reconcile. So to have a proper system, it is very important to handle it as a single source of truth and have the real-time reflection. Okay, so this is about system. And also today, in today's business, we have more than billions of businesses. So it is not, I think it's difficult and it is not enough to run it in Excel anymore. So we need to have a proper tools to handle all this. So proper tools, proper platform. Take for example, Power BI. Power BI is very famous in Intel Finance, yeah. So Power BI itself, it has a ready connectors. For example, like it will be able to pull directly from the system, from the databases directly, instead of having the analyst itself to go to the system and then export and do further transformation. But what happened in Power BI, after the data is loaded into Power BI, it can further use it to do all the transformation. So the Power BI on client tools have it ready Power Query editors that will record down every single step that people take on it. The data sorting, data cleanup, reformatting, everything will be recorded. So what happened in the future? In the next close cycle, instead to have the analyst to re-execute again, and next cycle, re-execute again, let's say spending 8 hours per time. So what they need to do is just one click refresh within Power BI itself, and everything will just appear like magic and ready for presentation. Just one-time customization. And nevertheless, I also want to mention about Power BI, right? It is very good that because we have the proper tools with it, it enables the instant drill down to the next level of details. And also with a Q&A insights that readily you can leverage on, that allow you to answer leaders' question directly, immediately, instead of letting them to wait. So that's about the 3Ps infrastructure that how we help in the analytics journey. So this is the how. So like I think Vaikit also mentioned the importance of data. So we have the data commonly. We have unstructured data. It could be unstructured. It could be structured data. So in real life, the data often it is not ideal. So we will have missing value, abnormal pattern, all those. So in order to have it in a more complete manner to bring for the next execution, this is where we will do hindsight. So we will execute exploratory data analysis, take for example, and this is where we will fill in those gaps. Fill in those missing value with 0, for example, or you could make some assumption to follow the trend or whichever to make the data to become more complete so we can fit into the machine and the machine can understand it. So next one, this is where we will bring to the insights. As you can see here, insight, it is identifying the patterns. So from the raw data itself, we are not able to understand what it is trying to tell. And that once you identify the patterns, this is where you will see trending and everything is a right manner, that the data become readable. This is where it tells you the story. And bringing to the next level, this is foresight. We leverage whatever that we have in the current data, and we make a prediction, what is likely to happen in the future. Okay, and I also want to quickly talk about what is business insight, how we generate business insight. So we have raw data, like I keep on mentioning, data is everything. Raw data is a backbone of decision making to optimize the service delivery. So data platform is very important, like the technology infrastructure. We need to have the proper way to handle all the raw data. And that's where we feed it to the next level to perform data science and analytics. This is where we will execute different types of analytics. The descriptive analytics, it is commonly used in most of the organization where we will do visualization, trying to tell the users what is happening right now. And in between, when we go to predictive analytics, there's actually a diagnostic analytics telling why is it happening. Moving on to predictive analytics, this is where you will predict with your existing data, you predict what is likely to happen in the future. Okay, and prescriptive, you recommend actions that could be taken towards with your predicted outcome from your predictive analytics. Next, it is the reporting. So it is very important on reporting. It is the communication that you need to ensure whatever message that you want to convey to your stakeholders, it is accurate. If it is not accurate, then there is where it will miscommunication and you might get the things in the wrong manners. So to deliver a user-friendly interface for both consumers and stakeholders is very important, okay, to get the right communication. And finally, this is where the insight get generated, where it will help to make decisions in real time to complete the transformation of delivering better services via technology. And here I have a quick example of the application of Foresight. This chart, it is running through R Studio, just a very quick example for you to get a concept on how is it working. So we have all the data points that plotted in this chart. As you can see here, it's just plotting out and then likely to provide you some trending. However, the machine itself, it will be able to tell you the trend, removing the outlines, everything, once you put in the code, okay? So this is the trend. And to understand the seasonality as well. Seasonality sometimes could be in daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, whichever that makes sense to your data. Take for example, if you are predicting your utilities bill, or let's say weather temperature, then it makes sense to have it forecast, have it understand the seasonality in the daily trend, okay, the daily seasonality. So to understand the trend and seasonality, it is important as you want to get your data stationarized. And this is where it will make the magic happen. From all the, all the model, all the data test set that you load into the machine, it will train the model and give you the trending. And this is where the prediction occur. As you can see at the right-hand side, the red color bowl area, this is where the magic, and you will bring this conversation to your top management. And this is where it will excite people, right? Because you will create the aha moment, and at the same time, you will create debates. Okay, you will get all sorts of questions from your management. This is where you trigger the thoughts and you change the decision. Okay, so basically, this is the power of prediction, and that's where we will drive actionable items from the predicted, from whatever that we can predict. Yeah, so that's all about my sharing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Hui-Ying. Now we have entered our panel session for this webinar on enhancing data analytics technology. Are we ready? I would like to invite Mr. Tai Lee Sam, Financial Controller at Intel, to take over the panel session. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Hani, and thank you to all three speakers. Wow. Talk about exciting. That was great stuff. You know, your insights was certainly very insightful. So let's kick off with the panel. As a reminder, as Hani said, if you have questions to these esteemed speakers, please log it in the Q&A icon in Zoom. Let's kick it off. First question to Waikit. Deloitte is in a unique position, I would say. You, because of your vantage point, work with various clients in different sectors. Let me quote you some statistics for context. Every person on the planet generates 1.7 megabyte of data per second. Per second. Amazing, right? And we got 6 billion people. Collectively, that's 74 zettabytes of data per year. If you haven't heard that word, yeah, zettabytes, many zeros. Now, interestingly, less than 1% of that data is analyzed. So we generate plenty of data, it is processed, it is stored, but not necessarily analyzed. So, you know, just now when Dr. Teo was talking about, hey, we are at level 3, okay, I was trying to reconcile that. So I wanted to ask you, Waikit, are we actually realizing the potential of data and insights based on your interaction with all your clients and what you have seen? What are your observations?
Well, I guess looking at my clients, right? So it kind of differs from industries to industries, right? So certain industries, especially look about airlines, tourism, and whatnot, right? They are the early on takers and whatnot that we can actually see that they embed within their service offerings per se, right? So I think there is the speed to adoption to realization at an organizational wide, it kind of differs from industry to industry and also the products they're offering. So that's definitely one thing. And just that certain industries also, because ultimately, right, just going back to what I mentioned, right, analytics itself is just an enabler overall. Ultimately, you actually need to find a use for it. And for certain industries, it's a little bit tougher because they may not be more use cases. So it's more like a white space that they have to start from the very beginning itself. So those are actually, I I wouldn't say slow adopters, not much adoption there, but for those that, globally, let's say, for example, like, again, best one is airlines, tourism, like, or let's say the tech companies overall, right? I mean, there is essentially in their veins itself, right, that is how they make decisions. It's not like somebody comes to the meeting, oh, I think it should be this, but no, everything has to be supported. So I hope I
Yeah, so
answered
you're
that.
saying difficult to paint the brush across the different sectors. Some are more advanced, some are at the beginning, all
Yes,
at a different life cycle. So probably
yes.
the cup is half full from your perspective.
I guess less than half full. And also another thing is like the impediment to this is that, I mean, even though we have advanced so much, right? Like technology is becoming cheaper and cheaper. But the thing is like if you want to apply a whole organization as a whole, it's like Hu Ying was mentioning, right? I mean, it's actually quite true, right? I mean, in a whole cycle of any adoption overall, you have the people, you have the culture, you have the whatever data that you have inside. And aside from the monetary amount, and it is definitely very resource intensive, and also it requires a mindset change, a shift, all right, from the people from the top to bottom and bottom to up. And on top of course, everybody wants everything, right? But thing is like things are not cheap.
Yep. So you have to pack up the whole village to get going.
Yeah.
It's not a single man journey. I get you. Okay, that's cool. Dr. Teo, over to you. What is USM and all the other institutions of higher learning doing to help enable the industry in big data analytics? So let's zoom down a little bit. Right? Let's talk about manpower, for example. How do we enable sufficient talent with the necessary expertise out into the market? So in the industry, we call them data scientists. And my feeling is that there is more demand than supply right now.
Yes, indeed, Sam, you're right. There's indeed more demand than supply for talents equipped with the necessary expertise, as you have just mentioned. So generally, USM and institutions of higher learning have embarked on enhancing current academic programs at all levels. So what do we normally do is we inject, at this stage, we inject elements of IR 4.0 so that we can equip our graduates with the fundamental knowledge and skills which is relevant to the current market demand. So thereby, we are trying to elevate the graduates' employability. So furthermore, in addition to that, a lot of these higher education institutions, including USM and Graduate School of Business as well, we craft new programs with special focus in IR 4.0 technology pillars. Moreover, if you might have observed that institutions of higher learning are dynamically involving in research activities, particularly our friends in the engineering, computer sciences, and myself in business alike, we dwell into investigating various aspects of the problems out there, and we propose solutions that can be applicable in order to solve the problem, address the problem, and eventually contributes to the sector. So besides academic program, we are also actively engaging with the industry through involvement with professional bodies, through attending or sending our students to conferences, and through internships, as well as several other projects, consultancy projects, and so on. So with this, our students are able to interact and involve directly with the industry player. So what is good about this is that on one hand, we'll be able to expose our students to the big data applications and data analytics and the issues in the real world. So bringing them from classrooms to the real practical world out there. So with this, we are looking at cultivating their interest to pursue this as their eventual career after they have graduated. While on the other hand, through this kind of engagement, we are actually linking the market or the industry players with a source of talent pool who are ready to be engaged in their organizations. In fact, if I may add a little bit more, we have to get back to the root problem that the students and graduates are having today, which is lack of industry exposure. Because we can share IR 4.0 topics to the students, but without any industry exposure, it will be very hard for them to imagine the utilization and the use cases behind it. So our two other speakers and this kind of sessions is indeed very useful to get them involved as well. So back to the question, the fastest manner for us to equip the students with such expertise and contributing to the talent pool will be to consider invoking the mandatory needs for students to involve in those related clubs, events, as well as the industry training. So besides these higher education institutions, we are also looking at the role of TVET, Technical Vocational Education Training, which has been also a critical enabler to ensure that the nation's human resources potentially rightly skilled, because TVET institutions provide opportunities of education, upskillings to meet these challenges. So last but not least, establishing a platform for strategic collaboration of expertise, equipments, technology between centers of excellence, higher education institutions, TVET institutions, regional economic and industrial authorities would certainly be a great move to address these talent supply and demand issues that you have just mentioned, Sam. So that
Yes,
would
yes.
be my response
Glad
to
to hear that, Dr. Teo. So, I noted that you run the Faculty of Graduate School of Business, GSB. Hopefully, this seminar will be good marketing collateral for you to attract more students to your faculty. You can see all the use cases is exciting. It's exciting times. Hui, over to you. As you mentioned, you have been on this journey, data scientist, for the last couple of years. How would you characterize your journey so far for both you yourself and your transformation unit? And how is the reception of the stakeholders, right? Both from the citizen cohorts that we have to train from scratch, as well as the business leaders of the business units that are the recipients of your analytics. How is the whole ecosystem coming together?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Sam. I would think it is not easy at first, I want to say. So we really start up the team in Malaysia brand new. So it is totally no transformation team from zero to become what we have today. So at the very beginning, what I can remember, it is no demand at all. And people are not aware what is analytics. So we are in a position where we need to look for business. We need to look for demand. So we provide the supply, but we go to every functional team. We ask them, hey, we are offering this help. Do you think analytics is something that could add value to your organization? So we start up with this one, and when we move forward, right, we kind of get the demands and break down into a few ways, like I keep on mentioning descriptive analytics and everything. So people are kind to understand, oh, so this is something that we could make it automate on the flux analysis and everything, and even move further. Predictive is something that could happen and that can help the business. So this is where we start up and we make the partnership also with our functional team. We try a few models and we test out the best. Like I mentioned, the best model is to have the combination of people that is the SME, subject matter expert on technology excellence, and also who are close to business. So this is the one that I want to mention. I think a partnership on a certain business use cases, it is very good as compared to you just ask someone to develop for you without the business person to understand what is going to run in the proper tools or technology. Yeah. So, and also when the demand is become higher, right, that's where we will sort of our supply shortage. So this is where we will need to make the prioritization. Okay, we need to prioritize our business. So we have a sizable population in shared service center, and we have team that is more close to operations. So this is the people that will actually get prioritized because they need the insights very, very much. So we also have the certification program that I mentioned. So this is to upskill the entire community, but we focus this certification on this group of functional team where we managed to get the very first batch of person with 100% certified on at least the descriptive and diagnostic. So this, you can see, we start everything from small. It's a step-by-step that we're bringing our people to the next level. And I would say at today, right, the culture and awareness is there. We have everyone, they are aware on what is analytics and they know how important is analytics. So we set ambitious goal in our total entire finance. Okay, we want everybody to be able to analyze the variance by themselves and they can do the fluctuation by themselves. So we keep encouraging the upgrade skill set, right? At today, our focus are we want to move toward to predictive. So when you ask me, how is the citizen cohorts means to the business leaders, right? I would say it is a good feedback that we obtain from the leaders, and definitely this is what we got our support from the leaders. They admit for the benefits that we can bring to the community, and that's how I think it's a win-win. As when we train those talent pool from the functional team, the leader themselves, they see the benefits that it can obtain from their people. And at the same time, this is how we pay forward, we pass forward the culture, everything, and we get more and more people get attracted to this analytics. And that's where we bring up the entire organization. So I would say the leader, the top management are actually quite value whatever that the team is doing right now. Yeah.
That's great. Happy to hear that at least we are doing something right. So that's nice. Question to everyone. I think what tools do you use for analytics? I heard Power BI. Yes, that's one. That's a great visualization tool, and it helps with predictive as well. But what others do you use, and how do you make governance questions about which tool to adopt, which tool to invest in? Let's start with YK again.
Oh, okay. I guess the tools, I mean, when it comes to like the tech stack overall, there are actually multiples for you to choose from. And I guess for those people that are actually adopting it, they will actually need to harmonize it with the existing ecosystem within the environment, right? Unless you're thinking of replacing every single thing and whatnot. So I guess considerations have to be made to that. And secondly, when it comes to like Power BI essentially is just a visualization tool, right? That is being used at the end user overall, or being by the analytics, by analysts. I want to say even the analysts, basically it's just for visualization overall, just for reporting purposes, right? I think the front visualization tools, like they have Power BI, we have Tableau, we have Click. Those are which are very prominent in the market. I wanted to have a chance to actually show you the providers out there in analytics of visualization that is highly rated or from bottom to up, right? Unfortunately, I did not manage to do that. But visualization, Power BI, Tableau, Click, right? And then, but the major investments when it comes to big data, right? I mean, not just like a small set of data, is ultimately you need a database. And the database, I mean, I guess if you use Power BI, I guess the most important, the easiest, I won't say easiest, the related one is SQL, right? You have an SQL database, and that a lot of things happening behind the tech part, for which is a majority of the amount of technology that's inside there. The front end is a visualization, but the back end, when it comes to dissecting of data, transforming data, manipulation of data, then you have your source codes, your programming codes, and you have your databases. A lot. I mean, I guess you would have to look at it from end to end, not from an organizational overall, to be honest. I mean, if an organizational transformation. Yep, sorry, Hui.
Great. There's multitude of data, I mean, tools over there. Maybe a perspective from Hui?
Yeah, I echo what Kit has just mentioned, right? So every time to run analytics, it is not limited to just one tool, because every tools, it will fit for a different preference. Like Power BI is for visualization, but if let's say we want to do more, we could leverage some other tools, and also a few factors that we need to take into consideration, right? Not just about the tools itself, but also the feasibilities and the business needs that you need to do. For example, if a finance person, they doesn't have a coding background, it is very hard for them to start with Python, let's say, is a coding base. So we do have like for example, MIME analytics platform, which is more user-friendly to fit for those people that are no coding background, and they are still able to run analytics to train the nodes, train the model, and also get the predictor to run the model for prediction for them. Yeah, so no right or wrong, but at every time, it is commonly happen in the analytics world that we have multiple tools to help us run the analytics. Yeah.
Multiple tools for different use cases, and that's where some governance on which ones are the most optimum one would help. Got it. Let's take some questions from the floor. So this one is about a definition. Can you elaborate on the difference between big data versus data analytics? Perhaps Dr. Teo, you can answer that one.
Okay, sure. So in short, big data refers to any large amount and complex collection of data. So we can refer it to those 3 Vs, 5 Vs, and so on. And data analytics is the process of extracting meaningful information from the data to gain insights. And data science is a multidisciplinary field that aims to produce broader insights. So that is a very short response to that question.
Yeah, for me, it's all about extracting data. It may be small data, it may be big data, but then you turn the data into insights and make it useful for decision making, right? So in a
Yeah,
way,
I mean,
tomato. Yes, like it.
yeah, sorry. I mean, I just wanted to mention, right, because we mentioned about governance, right? So it's like, especially from the literature part, from the academics part, and then from the governance perspective, it's just, I mean, of course, everything is data analytics, right? It's just that you need to be able to define, you need to be able to categorize and whatnot. That's why these terms came about, like big data. What's the difference between big data and data? What's the difference between data lake, data warehouse, data ocean, whatever they might call it nowadays, right? It's just because the field is getting larger and larger, all right? It's getting more and more advanced on a day-to-day basis. And that's why certain terms are actually being used to be able to categorize for governance purposes and also for conversational purposes itself. Yeah.
Got it. And this is probably the last question we have time for. I'll take it from the floor again. And this goes to Huiying. Would you encourage people without knowledge of the data visualization software like Power BI to enter this industry? How do you determine that you are suitable and can sustain in this industry when you're starting from zero?
Okay, definitely. I want to share my personal story. I doesn't have background on Power BI, and I told you I doesn't have data science background. So I really start from zero. I would say Power BI is very user-friendly for everyone. So definitely, even if you want to learn other than Power BI, it is more than welcome. The only thing is the skill development, the I would say the courage, the spirit, the culture that you want to learn through, that you want to make yourself from zero to become hero. Yeah. So definitely a person without knowledge, we are encourage you to learn as well. And also Power BI is really very user-friendly. As you know, this is Microsoft product. So Microsoft product, it is always very famous in user-friendly for the people to use. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Use YouTube. Yes, like
sorry, so I just want to add on, right? So when I started up, I think 4 or 5 years ago, so when I was setting up my team, right? So I'm an accountant, right? By profession, right? My team members were one from actuary, so he studied actuarial science, and another person was a master's in biomedical engineering. All right, so I'm just saying it's when it comes to analytics itself, it's not really confined to, like, you know, like a certain profession or whatnot, right? It's the mindset, it's the innovation culture and whatnot. It's and just to add on, right? It is really relatively new. Of course, right now you have courses and whatnot coming about it, right? But it never kind of stops, right? A lot of it is self-learning. A lot of it is self-learning. And the same thing, I didn't graduate from my college after getting a Bachelor of Finance, and then I can sign off on accounts, right? So it's always a continuous learning.
Yes, fully agree, right? It's the growth mindset, and I agree with Huiying. If I can learn some basics about Power BI, so can you. And YouTube nowadays is a great resource for you to go and learn anything. I would like to conclude at this point by asking each speaker to provide some closing remarks, some quick ones. We start with Dr. Teo.
Okay, sure. So I wish to address a very important point from the question that Jason Chung has posted at the Q&A. So among those factors, technology, organization, or environment, our research consistently highlighted that organizational factors, naming adaptive capacities and tech resource competencies, are the most important. So the capability that enables organization to harness internal external knowledge is key. In other words, first of all, an organization need to have the right people and talents. This is crucial. Secondly, technology resource competencies, we are referring to digital transformation, is the first step that organizations should embark on in order to further realize the benefits that this big data analytics adoption is going to bring. And last but not least is the key role of strategic agility, because many people we talk to in the industry tells us that, hey, I'm already adopting, investing so much in technology. I'm so-called been using these tools and whatnot, and why am I still not seeing the impact in improving my performance? So we would like to highlight that the role in between is, first, it leads them, it guides the organization to attain this strategic agility, very fast, flexible in adapting to market changes, customer demand, and whatnot. And consequently, it will definitely take some time for it to realize into financial and non-financial organizational performance indicators. So this will be my concluding remark. Sam, thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Teo. It takes time to find gold. Hui Ying, what's your over to you?
Okay. Yeah, I just want to mention, so analytics is a journey, and it will never stop. Just learn and go ahead. Okay. So hopefully today you have a key ways of you understand how is the Intel story, and we welcome you if you want to join the analytics world and also the 3Ps infrastructure, and hope you enjoy today. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Hui Ying and Waikit.
Okay, just want to say, I mean, one might be actually very overwhelmed with technologies nowadays, right? But a lot of it actually works in the background, like to contribute to your particular work itself. And it's always, like I mentioned, I think everybody has mentioned, right? It's always good to learn and whatnot. And we are actually living in a world, you are no longer a very single contributor per se. We all work in an ecosystem nowadays. Not one person is supposed to know everything. You have the tech guys, you have the business guys, and it's like you are expected to know a little bit, but you're not supposed to be an expert in that field. As long as you have sort of like inkling of what it is, and then to contribute to your objective and whatnot. So it is a very, very different world as compared to back then, I would say, from a culture perspective. Now it's all about collaborations. You're not supposed to know everything, and it's about reaching out, having a network, having the connections, and always have the mindset that in an innovation culture is that whatever that you're doing, always challenge it. I mean, not to say challenge it in a bad way, but that's how innovation occurs, how everything improves, right? By rethinking of what you're doing and what can be done better.
By being curious.
Yeah, being curious.
Totally agree. Yeah. Let's thank our three speakers. Wonderful knowledge sharing. And back to you, Honey.
Thank you, Sam, and distinguished speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of this program, and we hope you had a great time and loads of takeaways from today's session. Big thanks to Penang GBS Focus Group committee members, Penang Development Corporation PDC, panel speakers, and moderator for making this session a possible and success. To all our participants, thank you for taking time from your busy schedules to tune in with us today. We look forward to have you again in our future events. For your information, we will have our GBS 1.5 webinar series 2 soon in August. Wishing all of you a pleasant day ahead. Stay safe and thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.